Hi, this is Brad with Copper Creek Cuts, a lawn care company in Northeast Florida, and it's another week and another ego video. Last week's video, which you'll be able to see here, wasn't that positive of one. It really broke down Ego's marketing numbers and took a look at, is it really as expensive to run gas equipment as Ego's marketing would have us believe? And I think the answer is no. This video is going to be a first look and first impressions after several weeks of use. The first thing right off the bat is I see a couple of missed opportunities when it comes to what Ego launched with. For Ego to launch a dedicated string trimmer and not their power base, or not a commercial power base that uses their attachments already, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Unless I'm thinking cynically, then it makes perfect sense. If you come out with a power head tool first, then come out with this dedicated string trimmer later, there's no reason to buy this. You've already got an attachment system that does it. By launching with this dedicated string trimmer first and then saving that power head unit for maybe late 2019 or 2020, you're able to say, hey, look, we've got a new product, we're expanding our commercial lineup, when really I think you should have launched with that first. Along those same lines, this hedge trimmer, where I am locally, I don't see pros using hedge trimmers like this. Battery or electric, gas or electric. They don't use this handheld style. What they use is stick hedge trimmers, like the one that you'll see here. They're easier. You don't have to bend over as much. But that's a big reason, again, why I think Ego did their customer base and potential professionals who might get in this commercial lineup a disservice by launching with this instead of the power head system. I really would have rather seen a power head for $199 or $250 rather than just a dedicated string trimmer for $400, at least just me. Now that brings us to our blower here. For a handheld blower, it's acceptable. The issue is no commercial guys use handheld blowers. In using this on my weekly and bi-weekly maintenance properties, does it work? Yes. Can you use it? Yes. Would you want to? No. Not when you've used a backpack blower and you can finish a driveway in 2 minutes where this takes 3.5 or 4 minutes. That doesn't seem like a lot of time, but it is. when you're sitting there doing it and you know how fast it could be done, it is a lot of time. So that's another drawback of this whole commercial system, is that the blower is 600 CFM. And again, I'm not saying it's not a high-performing handheld electric blower. I'm saying that for a commercial guy, 600 CFM is woefully inadequate. Even if you never did any leaf cleanup jobs, if all you were doing was blowing off driveways and curbs from weekly properties, backpack blower is still going to save you a couple minutes on every single job, and that adds up a lot of time and a lot of money over the years. So I can't say I don't like this because it doesn't perform well. In fact, all this equipment performs really well. It's just when you apply a commercial mindset to it, does it make sense? Does it hold up? The other thing about this blower, I'll have to play around with the camera so that you can see, but there's foam inside of it. It looks like it's held in with a couple of plastic rivets and maybe some adhesive, because it doesn't come out when I pull at it. It's also here on the entire back end. So again, you can kind of just barely make out the gray behind the grill. That's all foam. Now here in Florida, it gets dusty and sandy, and so I don't know if long-term use, if that foam is just gonna act like a magnet for all that dust and dirt that gets kicked up in the air. Performance notwithstanding, that's my biggest concern with this blower, is that there's foam all in it. It just doesn't make any sense to me to have foam. That's what they use on air filters, right? That's what your pre-filter is made of, foam to catch dirt. So that's one concern about this. So those were kind of my initial reactions just looking at the system without any use whatsoever. Now let's dig into what I actually found when I started using these. Starting here, we have our commercial charger, our CHX 5500E. This has 2 modes, fast and slow charge. It's got a couple of LEDs to let you know how things are happening. This is where you plug it in. This charger is $200 and is sold separately from the battery. That's one thing that I don't like, that this and this aren't sold together. And I think the whole reason they did it is because of cost. It's a little galling that you have to buy a battery and a charger separate. If you have Ego equipment currently, you don't have to buy this $200 charger. You can buy this $80 adapter, and this will allow you to plug into your traditional Ego chargers and connect your commercial battery to it. So you can actually charge this with an old Ego charger, and you can run old Ego tools with this adapter. So that knocks $120 off, which is a little bit better. This little guy right here is also going to be a big factor in whether or not people who currently own Ego will get into this commercial backpack, because now you can use this and power all the tools that you already have. So this was really smart. For $80, this is a much better deal than having to spend $200 for this if you already have Ego equipment laying around. And let's just say you do use it commercially and you just want to upgrade this, $1,200 battery so that you can get bigger run times out of your equipment. Now, when we get to the actual battery itself, there's a couple of things I don't like. When it's, well, pretty much any time, but even when you have the harness on, there's no good way to set this battery down. You're either putting it down on its back and you're gonna scratch this plastic or get this plastic dirty if it's on, the lawn, or you're setting it down harness first and you're getting your harness scratched up or dirty. Now I understand why you can't really have a base plate to set this down flat like a backpack blower because of, how it would change the shape and the ergonomics and the weight. But that is one drawback to this battery pack, is that when you set it down, some part that you don't want to get dirty is going to get dirty. It does have a fuel gauge, so if you push that button there, you can see we've got about 80% charge. It lights up for you. So that gives you a little bit more indication of where your fuel tank is, if I'm allowed to use that term now. When it comes to the connector, the only thing to let you know what the right way is this little print and arrow, whether that's just some simple rubber overmolding or even just a different color plastic insert. That way you can tell at a glance, and from a distance without having to catch the sunlight against this black plastic, what the right way to plug this in is. Because as you can see, there is only one right. This isn't a USB-C where you can flip it any way you want. It has to go in the right way. Now let's flip this over and you're gonna see my biggest gripe about this backpack battery and the harness that goes with it. I want you to watch this clip first and then we're gonna come back to it. See, it did it. This is the second stop of the day and the second time this has fallen off during the trip. Every single time I stop the trailer, this thing has come undone. I can't explain why. I don't know if this just needs to be bent out more like that or what. This is my biggest annoyance with this backpack battery harness. This thing just keeps coming undone. When you find yourself using the hedge trimmer or the string trimmer, that battery backpack, it's problematic because the issue is that with the string trimmer, the hedge trimmer, you're doing a lot more bending. And as soon as you start bending, that backpack is no longer over your center of gravity and it puts a lot more strain on your back. So I found that while I can use a blower for 30, 40 minutes without any kind of problem, having the string trimmer and that battery pack on me for maybe 15 minutes, I start to feel it in my low back. And it's because, maybe this is going to be dependent on your height. Maybe certain guys won't have a problem with this. But it's because once you start bending over a little bit, all that weight is no longer resting solely on your shoulders and on your back. It's starting to transfer to your core, and that's not good. That's a little bit of an irritation point. Now, as far as ergonomics with the hedge trimmer, I don't really have any issues there. All these pieces of equipment are great performing and they're great to use. So I don't really have anything bad to say about the performance of these things. It's just all the little quirks and the applications to a commercial environment that don't make sense. So again, this one works smooth, works great, no complaints. This little cord holder here keeps the cord out of the way so you're not, trying to snip your cord up. The cord does dangle depending on how you're positioned. And so it can give you some moments where it's a little close to the cutter blades than you'd like. Just something you have to be mindful of, not a reason not to get it. For the blower, this is how you have to squeeze for the turbo to work. Turbo's the only way that you're gonna use this thing because of how limited 600 CFM is. In order to activate turbo mode, you have to hold down here with your thumb. That creates a lot of pressure and a lot of tension and a lot of stress on your forearm, because now you're squeezing and gripping with your whole hand. And it doesn't seem like it, but especially because of the way this balances, when you're rotating this left and right and gripping hard with your hand, this wears you out quicker than a gas equivalent. So there's a lot more. It's really hard to describe in words. When you use it, you understand. But there's a lot more physical fatigue that happens in your hands and forearms with this than a gas blower. Switching back and forth, it's easy enough if the cord is in front of you. If you're left-handed and you loop the cord around to your left-hand side, you won't be able to switch arms, so you just have to leave it in front of you. But switching hands is definitely something that you've got to do with this because of the funky balance, and it doesn't have a battery in it, but it's still got some heft to it. So it's not effortless to use this. Now with the string trimmer, again, performs beautifully, super smooth, cuts through everything. Here's the issues with it. 15 inches is not a lot. When you're used to a gas string trimmer that's around what, 17 or 19, I think on that Echo SRM 3020, is that 19 or 20 inches of swath it's got? 15 is super, super short. This is going to depend again on the properties you have. If you have properties where you can get this close to all the edges, it doesn't matter. But if you have properties where there's lots of trees that you can't get around, this 15 inches, the 2 inches makes a big difference. Insert your inappropriate pun here. And of course, it's all a runtime thing, right? They could make this do 17 or 19, but then your battery performance would be a lot less. The lack of a speed feed head, I don't think that's too much of an issue, because at least most of the professionals I talk to, anytime they get a string trimmer, an Echo speed feed head is the first thing they put on it. So same here. You're not going to keep this head that you have to sit there and wind the spools of line in. You're just going to replace it with a speed feed head. So is it a bummer that Ego didn't put a speed feed head in here? Yeah, but you were probably going to replace it no matter what anyway. So not ideal, but you know, 20 buck fix. So what are you going to do? This handle is relatively thin compared to some of the other handles that I've been used to using, and thinner can be more painful on your hands after a while because it cuts in more. It's also not overmolded. It's just cheap hard plastic. For $400, I would like to see a little rubber overmolding, some comfort in here. This video, not really an in-depth on each tool, because those GIE videos do a really good job of explaining how each tool works. But from my first several weeks of use, these are the main issues that I'm running into. If you're somebody who's a commercial user, those are going to be the main issues I think you run into as well. And it's the best suited for commercial users, but just because it's the best suited for commercial users doesn't mean that it's good for commercial users. And those are some of the biggest reasons why I think it won't be a good fit for you. Will those reasons hold up over time? I'll do a follow-up and final review of all this equipment. We'll do some more videos in between here and there to kind of flesh out this system some more and some of the things that you need to know. But that's it for this video. If you'd like to see any of the others that I've done on Ego, you can see them there, or whatever YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Please consider subscribing and making sure you click that notification bell. Otherwise, YouTube won't let you know when we put out new videos and you might miss something on this series. Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it.